So ladies, gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new DCU Chapter 1 discussion series video. So as of when you're watching this, I am on holiday, or what many of you would call vacation. I'm British, so we call it going on holiday. So I thought I would upload some content in the meantime, and we would do a DCU discussion series episode anyway, but knowing my luck, around the time this is dropping, I won't be here to cover maybe any surprise news. So picture me crying on the streets of Rome, maybe expect a live stream from the Colosseum, I don't know. But no, really, if there is any news dropping, obviously I will be covering it when I'm back. But here's something in the meantime. So if you're brand new here, what we do is we discuss any kind of recent news on the DCU, any theorizing, speculation on the upcoming DCU based off of maybe some recent news, among many other things, bouncing back on some of your ideas from recent videos and all kinds of things like that. So I hope to see you guys get involved as much as you always do. So to begin with here, from David Chittick 6783, he says, I hope DCU's version of Batman and Bruce Wayne will be a lot like Kevin Conroy, where he's like Sherlock Holmes in the animated series and like James Bond in the Arkham series. Well, with this, I think most of us agree. You know, I suppose you can make a distinction, though. For example, there is a distinction between what Matt Reeves has done with Batman and, let's just say, Christopher Nolan. So it's not like Christian Bale's Batman or even Ben Affleck's Batman under Snyder wasn't detective-driven. We did see some detective attributes to those character portrayals, but obviously Matt Reeves heavily leans into that noir detective style in the Batman movies. So I think what I'm trying to say here is it would be cool to kind of have a blend of everything in the DCU. So, for example, Christian Bale's Batman or Ben Affleck's Batman, you get maybe some other things that even Matt Reeves' Batman didn't lean into. So I guess to decorate the cake, as much as us Batman fans would love and just like to see most of all, would be, I don't know, I guess a combination of Ben Affleck's Batman warehouse fight scene level combat, the detective-driven Batman of the animated series or Matt Reeves' Batman, but also incorporating all of the opportunities that you now have with this DCU being a fantastical universe. And then, of course, guys, we have quite a bit of feedback from the reveal of the Superman suit. So we got a couple to go through here. One's from Elijah Race 955 saying, I imagine the suit will be in pretty good condition at the beginning of the movie, and then eventually get to this stage that shows all the wear and tear. And I think that is the case. I think I'm of a few minds about it, believe it or not, because the reason why I don't know if it will be super ultra clean at the beginning of the movie is because we can't forget how this Superman has been active. He's an established hero, as Gunn said. It's not an origin story, and it's still yet to be determined and revealed how long Superman has been flying around in a red cape publicly, you know, saving the equivalent of a plane falling in Metropolis or something like that. But he's been doing stuff like that already. So you would have thought if he's maybe apprehended a metahuman on the loose in Metropolis and done some, you know, smaller scale things like that, but not necessarily having gone up against Zod or Brainiac, that kind of level, he would have sustained some damage. So maybe it could be the situation of where towards the beginning of the movie, there's going to be some wear and tear on the suit, but not as much wear and tear as what we saw in the official suit reveal image. But then as the events of the movie unfold with whatever the hell Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor is planning to do and all that good stuff, he sustains more damage, and, you know, whatever the heck that thing is in the background, whether it's Solaris, whether it's, you know, people saying, is it a Brainiac drone? Some people said, or maybe it's something entirely different to do with Lex Luthor, and it's just a beam not being sent down to Metropolis, but it's actually a beam being sent up into the sky, and Guy Gardner's Green Lantern is deflecting it from behind with that little green hue in the background. I don't know, but no matter what, you know, there's going to be a threat in this movie for not only Superman to face off against, but also his metahuman compatriots. There's no way that there's not going to be such a kind of threat, not only Lex Luthor, but perhaps this secondary antagonist is what I'm possibly labeling that little pink-ish glow in the background that would require the help of not only Superman, but Metamorpho, Guy Gardner as a Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, and Hawkgirl. But then there's also the addition of the suit reveal that we got at our first peek of it, where we just got the up-close image of the crest, which I do need to emphasize here. This is the same suit, but clearly one big difference here is that it looks pristine. It's in the snow as well, and we know that they were filming in Norway and they were shooting the Fortress of Solitude. James Gunn even detailed this to a Norway press outlet, saying that Superman flees to the Fortress of Solitude, or at least that was the translation. So that could be kind of a hyperbolic statement, like fleeing to the fortress, believe it or not, might not actually mean he's running away from somebody, but I guess it could be interpreted, let's just say if it got translated a little bit differently, as Superman's just kind of fleed there or gone to the fortress. I don't know. That's a very big what is going on there. But the suit at that part in the movie is clean. Now, you could assume that's earlier on in the film, but at the same time, they don't always shoot movies in order. So that Fortress of Solitude scene could be at any point of the film. And also, we know that Maria Gabriela de Fries, the engineer, was filming with David Corenswet in Norway at the Fortress of Solitude location. So it's what is going on there? But I would love to know any thoughts there. Do you think it's going to be in good condition at the beginning of the movie? I think it probably will, but there might be a little bit of wear and tear. But as the movie progresses, it's going to look like it does in that suit reveal image. But it would be pretty interesting if at the beginning of the movie, it's got similar battle damage on it as it does in that suit reveal image. We could consider that, and then maybe it gets repaired at some point in the film, because what if it's more Kryptonian based? Because that is worth bringing up, because a lot of people are saying, well, Mark Kent could have built this suit. That could be true, but it could also be from the Fortress of Solitude, because one thing I will say is, and I don't mean to underestimate Mark Kent here, because, many of you could say, well, she had the Kryptonian materials from the fortress that Clark brought home, or, founded in the pod, right? But I don't know, that is quite an advanced suit to make. Say what you will to all those who don't like the suit, but it is quite an advanced suit to make for a farmer in Kansas. I don't know about that one. I could be wrong. It could be. It might be a bit of suspension of disbelief, and Mark Kent is just badass at making a suit. But when I think of a Mark Kent suit, I think of this example that you're seeing on screen with Tyler Hoechlin's Superman, when we got flashbacks to his early days of being Superman, and he was wearing the suit that his mum made for him. But this suit, I'm not so sure. But I also got into that line of thinking as well, because even though I think this is quite reachy, which we do like getting quite reachy here on the channel, just to entertain all options here, we have Richard T. Brown 756 saying he goes back to the Fortress of Solitude to recharge, and the Kryptonian tech remakes the suit we see in the first pic in the snow. You never know. You genuinely never know. That's one thing I'm so excited to see, is this new iteration of the Fortress of Solitude, which I hope brings back to kind of a crystallized kind of, Norway Arctic-looking fortress, rather than that of a crashed ship we saw in Snyder's, which I do like. It was quite innovative there, but I think we should kind of go source material comics, not necessarily full Donner, add some, innovation in there, not necessarily like statues carved out of ice that Superman is made with his heat vision, but you never know, they could do that. Maybe not a massive door with a giant key, but again, with this fantastical DCU and James Gunn's knowledge of the source material, which again, I need to emphasize, I don't think people realize how knowledgeable he actually is on this stuff. I think there's going to be a blend of all of it. But I wonder if the suit, if it is from the fortress, similar to, I don't know, the Smallville scene when Clark goes in there and it's presented when he's ready to be Superman, if they kind of have repair tech in there. And that wouldn't really be remotely surprising given Kryptonian technology. Up next from Derpy501ST2 saying, I just want a slate update, aka the rest of the slate. Now, for me, if I'm wrong about this, I'm wrong, but even just observing it logically, do we need it? You may have heard me say this before, but do we need it? No, we don't. But do we want it? Yeah, sure. Maybe many of us would like the remaining 9 to 10 plus projects of Chapter 1 and then the 20 plus in Chapter 2. But given that there's so much we don't know about Chapter 1 projects, but we're getting more and more nuggets, for example, We've got the recent news that I covered this week, or whenever you're seeing this video, it might have been a few videos ago, but of the Annecy Film Festival from Warner Brothers. They're showcasing Creature Commandos. We got a little synopsis there of how Waller forms another team of monstrous creatures, if you will. So we're getting more and more updates. We're hearing things about Booster Gold. We're hearing things more about Superman. We're hearing things about Waller, the show in general. So I think we need to learn more about that, what I was going on about of Lanterns, Supergirl. Obviously, there's other projects that were announced. There's 13 in total with the addition of, I guess, Teen Titans movie is a rumor, even though Hollywood Reporter reported that. But there's the Arkham series. There's Peacemaker Season 2. We've heard more about that. Frank Grillo is reprising his Creature Commandos animated role in live action for Season 2. So do you know what I mean? Are they really going to come out at an event at like Comic-Con or something like that this year, or even the fall of this year, and be like, oh yeah, by the way, you don't really know much about this, but here's project number 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, because again, just to stress, the 10 projects are announced in January of 2023. Gunn said that's less than half. So that obviously means there's more than 20, maybe like 22, 23 projects planned for the Chapter 1 part of both chapters of the DCU's 8 to 10 year plan. So with that being said, I just would rather hear more about Lanterns. I'd rather hear more about Supergirl. I'd rather hear more about Swamp Thing. I'd rather, even though that's going to be a long while away, the Authority and things like that, than just being told, yeah, you're going to get this, you're going to get that. I still wouldn't rule it out, though, because with rumors of the Teen Titans project, what is going on there? Could we get an official announcement for that? We need to hear something about Wonder Woman. So for reasons like that, knowing nothing about Diana's plans in the DCU, it does make me think, okay, maybe there could be more divulged there by Gunn and Safran. But then I just, dial it back a bit, despite thinking, okay, maybe we could hear more. I mean, I need to hear more about Wonder Woman. What the hell? She's been around for a long time, technically, in present day. What is her status? I then still go back to like, oh, but wait, there's still so much to learn. Do we really need to just know the titles of future projects? Now, of course, biased here and selfishly, I'd be like, yeah, give it all to me. If a leaker told me, if James Gunn DM'd me himself saying don't tell anybody, but this is all of our projects, you're not going to know any details, just the project names, I would take it in a heartbeat. But in reality, in terms of official acknowledgements of things and more expanded reveals of DCU projects in general, I would say give us more about Chapter 1's existing projects. But let me know if you disagree with me there. Are you like, I just want a slate update, the rest of the slate, so that means all 22-ish projects of Chapter 1? I think we need to hold our horses a bit there. I mean, I don't blame anyone for wanting to know everything about it, but personally for me, I just don't know if we are legitimately going to hear more about even more announcements for a while, outside of, if we're lucky, hearing a bit more about whatever the heck's going on with Wonder Woman and things like that. So Jack Stats 2860 says, oh wait, I only just clocked how big the crest is on his chest. That's amazing. I've been hoping for a big crest. Absolutely. That is one of the biggest desires from me and a lot of other fans, is that, I really do like Tyler Hoechlin's suit on the CW. They've done a pretty good job there, but I think that suit would be so much better with the crest being a lot bigger. And here, it is really big. The Kingdom Come crest is very big anyway, but this is like obviously Kingdom Come inspired, but it's got lots of Superman throughout the years, iterations embedded into it, with like the yellow outline and obviously the colors not being black and red like Kingdom Come, but having the Kingdom Come symbol. But it's also really big. It just kind of, Man of Steel as well. Something I absolutely love about that suit is the size of that crest, but it got smaller, a little bit smaller in Batman vs. Superman and Justice League, for them to bring it back in the Man of Steel suit with a lot more saturation in the Black Adam post-credit scene, which was nice to see. Stuff and Things 59 says, looks like Brainiac versus Green Lantern in the background. Do you guys have any more updated thoughts on what that could be? Again, in previous coverage, we've gone over updated thoughts at the time, being Solaris from All-Star Superman, but it doesn't exactly look like Solaris. But again, as I always say, adaptations don't copy and paste, so maybe they're kind of changing the color a little bit, or maybe that's when it kind of heats up and it changes color due to the heat, maybe, and sending out a beam. Do you actually think that this little green hue in the background could be Guy Gardner? Maybe. I kind of think that if you're doing a suit reveal image, sure, I admit that this is absolutely a tease for something going on in the film, likely down to it being a secondary antagonist. But if you're going to tease Guy Gardner in the background there, would you really do that with a little green hue? I guess it could be a subtle clue, but then why not tease other things like from Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho? Why add it just uniquely to Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner little green glow? So I'm not sold on that, even though I do totally understand the line of thinking and theorizing with that one. But Brainiac, I feel like we're all, including me, just shooting in the dark here, because some people say Brainiac scout ship. Sure, I guess, people are taking the purple out of that, meaning Brainiac. But I don't know. I feel like if you're going to do Brainiac, I wouldn't mind a teaser for Brainiac in this film that sets up a larger story of Brainiac coming, possibly even as the overarching big bad of Chapter 1, but reserved fully for another film. I feel like Brainiac, that wouldn't be Brainiac per se, because with whatever Lex Luthor is doing, and we know he's the main villain, I fully understand that we might have a secondary antagonist. Let's just say, for example, this is Solaris. That would make sense with All-Star Superman, but Solaris would kind of work in this film as a secondary antagonist to other things going on in the plot of the main challenges that Superman is up against with Luthor, because it can still be self-contained within that of this movie, whereas Brainiac feels like a much larger and ambitious role that if Luthor is the main villain, I don't see Brainiac being just secondary in the background or being kind of weaponized as this physical threat. I feel like he should be unique to his own threat. And sure, you could say to me, but what about Solaris? Isn't that what's happening with him? Yes, but it's still, I wouldn't view Solaris on Brainiac levels. He can be, as I said, included in the story, something else that is happening, possibly something that Luthor provoked, and I know Luthor can also provoke Brainiac coming to Earth, but I don't know. I feel like they're just not the same thing. So I don't think this is Brainiac related, although, again, maybe if there's an Easter egg in the film for Brainiac, or a Brainiac drone identifying Earth, and that means that, Brainiac is on his way in the DCU to kind of collect a piece of Earth as one of his trophies, maybe, but I don't know if you guys agree with me on that one, but let me know any and updated thoughts on whatever people say is this purple jellyfish thing in the background. Up next here we have from Rodat69 saying, what this suit lacks is the muscle mass shown in the suit that shows how powerful Superman is, the Man of Steel. Well, believe it or not, over here, very happy with that. I know we don't get a great look at his lower torso there, because, for example, we know there's trunks on the suit. We can see them, but we don't get a full reveal, which is another thing we can spiral off into here, and how we need another look at the suit to see everything. But I think we can make out just enough to show that there isn't kind of the Roman armor, muscle padding in the abdomen area, which, they've added onto plenty of superhero costumes over the years. But one thing I don't like, and I don't mind it being minimally put in there, but one thing I don't like is, jacked up superhero muscles. Again, a comparison here to Snyder's Superman is the Man of Steel suit had subtle muscle in there, but over time they added that shiny, metallic undersuit, which protruded the muscles so much more and also put shine into the suit, which is why I really don't like it compared to the Man of Steel suit, which is a lot more form-fitting. Superman still looks like Superman, but it doesn't have to be glaringly in your face. And again, I use the Roman armor example because it kind of reminds me of historic armor where they really protrude your pecs, your abs, and everything like that. I just, I'm kind of over that look now. So personally for me, I don't know how many of you will agree, but I think, with how big David Corenswet is, you can see that he is still a Superman-looking Superman, and I'm sure in other angles that will eventually get officially revealed, people will see that in the suit. You'll see how big his biceps are in there, but I don't think you need to show, literal blocks of ab armor on the suit, and that is my preference. I think it kind of makes it look a bit more smoother. I know some people might disagree with me here because they feel like the advantage that gives is that it really does show the kind of brick house version of Superman, but I don't know. I feel like you still do get that impression with the approach that they've gone for here. He can still look like the Man of Steel without all of that. Up next from Bourbon King saying they really need to do Green Lantern justice. I am so sick of the disrespect he's been getting. The 2011 movie ruined his reputation hard. And you know what? Lanterns, I may be a bit biased here because the concept of it is one of my most anticipated projects for DCU Chapter 1. It really is. I love the True Detective comparisons there. I'm not saying it's going to be a clone of Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey's True Detective Season 1, but I can see what they're going for when they say that. That already, with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, is just like, my God, the potential there. I think they do want to make it fairly gritty, but also fantastic, in this fantastical DCU. Hence the, stumbling across this, uncovering this ancient, terrifying horror and mystery that is very important to the DCU. I think that's another thing, the keyword being important. Safran says that this particular project in Chapter 1 being very important to the overarching story of the DCU. When he says overarching story of the DCU, he means the main storyline. For example, MCU had Thanos. It was slowly weaved in there. It was the overarching story. DCU will still have an overarching story despite individual antagonists and secondary antagonists in movies like Superman and Brave and the Bold and whatnot. There's still this overarching thing. So this being a gateway to that, I don't see how they'll not take it seriously and how they won't try and bring the best version of what a modern day 2025 or 6 iteration of Green Lantern could look like in a DC Universe reboot. So I have a lot of faith that Gunn wouldn't want to screw that up. Now, do I know it's going to be good or bad? No, I don't. I have a lot of optimism for it, though. So I think the VFX would have to be pretty damn good as well. The only Lantern stuff that we've got, outside of animated stuff, I guess, was Stargirl. They did some pretty cool stuff there with Jenny, and she was the daughter of Alan Scott in that universe. And even the CG was pretty good. So, easily I can imagine for a Max series, one that is very important to Gunn and Safran for the overarching story. I'm not saying they're going to pour hundreds of millions of dollars into it per se, but I think that they will have to, put the budget accordingly to show Lantern constructs, a nice CG hue to the rings when necessary, and everything like that. But this is more terrestrial based, so I think that will help out the show. We can't forget how, while Gunn admitted there will be other Lanterns, and his word is peppered in there, so we will see other Green Lanterns. Probably Guy Gardner, but maybe some others, especially if Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart are liaising with other Lanterns out there in space as per whatever their mission is on, as Gunn describes it, as Precinct Earth. They're going to be watching over Earth, uncovering this and stumbling across this ancient horror, which will ultimately lead to that liaising and, larger kind of reporting back to be like, hey, there's something cooking down here and it doesn't smell right at all. So there's going to be this, I don't know if I would use the word dread, but severity of tone at appropriate moments in the show. I'm not saying it's not going to get light or humorous at times, but I think this is one to be dealt with that's fairly seriously. So I think as a result, very optimistic about Lanterns. I think he will attempt to bring out the best of, what Lanterns could be in the DCU. And I think a lot of people share my optimism there. At this point, I'm just dying to hear anything on Lanterns. I think, obviously, that will be casting. I think, with the way things are going as well, we've got Creature Commandos, then Superman, and then we got Peacemaker Season 2, and then Waller. I think Lanterns won't be out until after those shows, which still tells me a possible 2026 release date, maybe, if you want to take everything into account with the kind of basic template with them aiming for 2 DCU TV shows a year and 2 DCU movies. To not oversaturate, only putting out, as they say, product when it's ready. That's the most important thing. You don't want to kind of half-ass it. Give VFX teams like barely any time to make good VFX. They do it as of when it's ready, then you will hopefully have a polished product. Whether people like it or not, that's one thing, but, they give it everything they can before it's out. And with the current seeming lineup of projects, we're getting more clues for production, for Peacemaker. I mean, that's already underway. Waller, all of that kind of stuff. It seems to me that the fall of 2026 is where Lanterns could lie. So it's going to be a little while until maybe we hear a bit more about it. But according to Gunn, it seems to be going along very swimmingly. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. And if you agree that I think they're going to go kind of head over heels to deliver on the Lanterns show. Dr. J says here, gets off at 9 to 5 as a reporter. Now I gotta go save the world. I'd be tired too. So this is obviously surrounding the optics of the image that a lot of people aren't too happy with. And we have another comment here from Wally B saying, I like Superman frowning here, which I still think is up for debate. You know, I think you can just be kind of pulling on your shoe, and the way that this photo is framed, it's just him looking down, even though I do think there's a deliberate decision for him to not be like smiling as he's putting on his boot. I don't think he's like, right, I have to go save the city. Do you know what I mean? I think there is a bit of a balanced take there where there's an in-between. But the rest of this here with what he's saying, a lot of times people don't understand that Clark has deep sadness inside of him. He loves what he does and always puts a smile on his face, but there is a deep-rooted sadness in him because he still doesn't know who he is. That's the struggle of Superman. He is a man of two different worlds. He struggles to find his identity. I think that's a theme that this movie is really trying to explore, which is why it was revealed this way. He's always smiling and has great joy helping the people of Metropolis, but in those quiet moments when he's by himself, deep in thought, there is a sadness in him. Superman is optimistic and shows that everything will be okay to the public, but inside of Clark, there is a sadness that he doesn't show as Superman. Which, I don't know if I, like, fully agree with that. I think there is kind of, this kind of introspection is what I would use more as a word compared to sad in Superman. Not that I would say existential crisis, like, oh my God, who am I? What, am I human? Am I Kryptonian? Am I both? What am I? With relation to what Gunn has teased with him saying this movie explores Clark reconciling his human upbringing with his Kryptonian heritage. So I don't think I would say a deep sadness, even though I think that can balance its way into what I said as introspection and overall introspection. Superman just, kind of looking in on himself. Who am I? And I say that at this point of his life because that's very important to remember with what Gunn said with how this Clark Kent, this Superman, is a fully fledged reporter, an established hero. The world knows who he is already. So we're clearly at the point in where this is a Superman who is still becoming, again, as I often compare here on the channel, a similar vision to what Matt Reeves did with Robert Pattinson's Batman. Not fully formed, still Batman, still an established vigilante, but he is still a Batman who's still becoming, who had a transformation by the end of the film. Now, I'm not saying Clark is going to go through the same arc, but there's a similarity there with regards to vision and approach. So I do think that what Wally is conveying here is true in a sense of when you look at that photo, Gunn was clearly going for how Clark Kent definitely knows he wants to be Superman. He is Superman. He has been Superman, let's say, for like a year and 6 months to 2 years, give or take. But, one thing that I don't think people pay enough attention to is that even though I argue that this photo was taken in this suit reveal, if you want to argue about nitpicky canonical moments where people are like, oh, he's taking his time, it's just I think it's just a blink of an eye with this photo being taken because, if Superman moves away after putting on his boot here to fly out and tackle the purple freaking ball in the sky, we would blink our eye and he'd already be gone. This is like an intimate moment that we get a preview in on with how he's putting his armor on, his suit on, if you will, to go out there again. But he is still, no matter what, the Man of Steel. But despite how invincible he is, aside from a couple of weaknesses like magic and kryptonite and whatnot, he can still be mentally debilitated, if you want to use that word. And I think that is something we could get experiences with in this film. Because I'm not saying, because I know when, you might suggest something like this, you get some people being like, oh, Superman isn't like that. He's, a bright, optimistic character. You can still get that. And as what Wally kind of leans into here, he will always show that version. And it's authentic when he smiles and waves to the people of Metropolis. He saves somebody out of a burning building. He saves a cat from a tree in a more Donna version-esque highlighted implementation of Superman that I think we will get in this movie as well. But I do think it's important to show the humanity to Clark. Again, calling back to the, this is Clark reconciling his human upbringing with his Kryptonian heritage. So amongst all the clusterfuck of a mess that he's dealing with in this film, Nicholas Hoult as the main villain, wherever the hell this purple freaking thing is in the sky, what gave him this battle damage on his suit at this point? When you consider all those things and how we're exploring both the journalistic side heavily in this film of Clark Kent, his human life, and also the Superman life, it becomes so clear what Gunn was going for here. Now, that's not me saying that maybe the way Gunn revealed it. Is that the best way he could have revealed the suit? The best thing that I think could have been done with this reveal is like a camera test. Like Matt Reeves, like Todd Phillips with Arthur Fleck and Joker. That is the best way. But I think some people, even while admitting there perhaps was a better way to show the framing of how Superman in the DCU was revealed for the first time in his official suit, some people are still, I think, ignorant. Like, I don't know if it's willfully ignorant, but like, I don't see how you can't identify any of those factors in what we're saying here. Again, this has nothing to do with like, okay, but Boba, I still don't like the way they released it. I get what you're saying, but how do you have the take of really, this Superman's so like depressed and he can't be asked to help out Metropolis? Like, be honest with yourself. Do you really think that is what's happening here? No, of course it's not. Now, again, you can easily say to me, and I completely accept if you're going to say it looks like that though. Sure. But I can also say it also looks like this. And then I think if enough people, thought about that for just a single second, they'll actually see how that's true to the character of Clark Kent and Superman. He is the Man of Steel. He is borderline invincible, but he can be mentally affected. He lives a life just like any of us. He does a whole 9-to-5 report a day, and it's even more awkward for him because he needs to try and find an excuse for maybe flying somewhere around the world during work hours and not get fired for it. He has all the other concerns that most people have in daily life. Granted that, yeah, okay, maybe not. He doesn't get ill and things like that. But you get what I'm saying. But then he also needs to worry and have the weight of the world on his shoulders. There's that line as well from, dare I say it, Superman Returns with Brandon Routh's Superman, where he says to Lois Lane that, you wrote that the world doesn't need a savior. And he says to her, what do you hear? And she's like, nothing. And he looks out when they're floating in the sky, and he says, I hear everything. I hear everyone crying out, and this is a bit of a paraphrasing quote from me here, crying out for one, a savior that is. And, I think he's just trying to demonstrate, and what I'm trying to demonstrate with my point here is that, can you imagine saving people yourself, being Superman? Really lock yourself into this for 1 second, having every kind of mental stress or like perspective on life that, any human does for the most part, outside of being invincible. And then knowing that you can save people at any minute on any hour of every day, and that you feel obligated to do that. And how much that would kind of, like, there's all of this nuance there. So showing David Corenswet, who I disagree, he's not frowning, but there's just like it's like entering flash time. We're entering a single second frame of where we would blink in real life and he'd be gone and he'd be flying out to that purple freaking thing. But we see him putting it on and he's going out there again. I don't see why that's so hard to understand for some people. Again, you don't have to like the suit reveal. I know I've said that so many times. I need to put that in here again. But one thing I think that people aren't being fair on with their assessment, even if they don't like it, and, that's their ultimate conclusion, is saying, while I don't like it, I do see how this can be reflective of the very character traits and psychology that I guess you could say makes up Superman, especially in early years one who is still reconciling his, human upbringing with his Kryptonian heritage and navigating still how to be the Man of Steel and, a Superman who is still becoming. I feel like, if you want to look at it as level-headed as you can and not even blindly defend it or, blindly hate it, I don't see how you can't really come to that conclusion. Now, I'm not trying to sound closed-minded there, because I'd like to think I address both sides, the people who really don't like it, the people who like it no matter what, try and meet halfway in the middle and be like, you know what? That probably is what it is. And let me know what you guys think of that. I know I've been over that quite a bit, but, when I was taking comments for this video and seeing Wally's comment here and other people replying to Wally's comment or whatever, and various other comments, you still get people completely like two opposite tidal waves clashing. And I think there is like a middle line there of how you can both not like the reveal and yet still understand how this isn't blasphemous to portraying Superman as Superman, because no matter what, this is Superman in my eyes so far. The Nub6074 says, I'd love to see Bruce Wayne show up like 3 times before we get Batman the Brave and the Bold. This is something we've entertained, and, will it happen? Maybe, maybe not. I've always said we do have that possibility. The best example is Millie Alcock being cast before the director was found for Supergirl. Granted, the screenplay was completed, and I say that and I mention that because Gunn said that we won't be casting until a script is finished. So technically, Millie Alcock's casting fell under that. The script was done November 2023. We got the casting, but do you know what I mean? It was still done before things were really, really, really ready to go. Now, the idea behind that, or the theory that I've been going with, is that this was done because Superman was very much so ramping up to film in February. They wanted Supergirl cast so she could have a very small role possibly in the Superman film. So Bruce Wayne, is there opportunity for that? Getting back to the main question, yeah, there is. I think it's more likely that we could get Bruce Wayne references by name, but if we're lucky, I say lucky, but that's open to interpretation, we could get Bruce Wayne in other projects. Like, let's just say Lanterns comes out before Brave and the Bold, this ancient horror, like Bruce could pop up there. There could be some, like, I don't know, messaging to Hal, especially if Bruce Wayne knows other heroes, which I really struggle to conceive that Bruce Wayne doesn't know of Superman, doesn't know of Guy Gardner. Like, this is Batman, who's already got Damian Wayne coming in, so he's already along in his career. There's no way he doesn't have tabs on other superheroes, let alone not interacting with them. Of course he has, to a certain extent. That's certainly things we need to learn about. How many heroes know of each other? Is there a Justice League? Is there a Proto-Justice League? Is there a Trinity at the very least? Or, has there been a World's Finest moment before this? Maybe, maybe not. But Batman appearing, for me, ultimately, the most important thing is you don't want to waste it. And to elaborate on that, is it a better decision to debut your new Batman with the Brave and the Bold? Hopefully, let me just label it like this. A badass movie out the gate, here's your new Batman. Or do you want to do that, but kind of prelude or kind of backdoor that actor in other projects to kind of serve as exposition, and they have to be necessary scenes for Bruce Wayne before the Brave and the Bold movie? That's the danger. I feel like it's not like we wouldn't find it really cool if the casting for Batman appeared as Bruce Wayne in another project. For example, Waller could even be an appearance for him. But would that kind of minimize the debut of this, the impact of the debut of this Batman, just seeing him for the first time in his own film? That's one thing that concerns me. If he appears in other projects before this. I think another example is if the DCU Arkham series is set before the Batman movie, that would probably be the best way because it helps flesh out his Rogues Gallery, because there's no way an Arkham series isn't about the Rogues Gallery, and we've explored that with how it could probably, and most likely, in my opinion, take a lot of influence from the animated series episode Almost Got Him. And that way, Batman can be seen, going there. There could be each Rogues Gallery villain telling their stories of how they think they almost got Batman. You can see Batman appear in that. All that kind of stuff, building up the character of Batman, and then kind of preluding and this explosive moment for when he's truly introduced in the Brave and the Bold, with hopefully a sick 5-minute intro scene of him fighting another Rogues Gallery member and locking them up at Arkham, and then returning back to Batcave to find Damian Wayne there and him saying, "Hello, father," and he's just like, what? Do you know what I mean? So that's the debate. Should he appear beforehand? Will that minimize the debut? Maybe it could serve the debut even better, because it could get fans hyped for, oh my god, let's just say it's Brandon Sklenar as Batman. He's appeared as Bruce Wayne and Waller. There was like a Batman audio in the Lantern series of him talking to them. There was a Bruce Wayne reference, but no appearance in Superman, something like that in a newspaper. And people just get excited to see him in the Brave and the Bold. So it could go both ways. I think there is two takes that are relevant. So let me know what you guys think. Up next from 21 here saying, I would love for the new Superman movie intro to show the journey from Kal-El being put into the pod, flying through space, landing on Earth, Martha, Jonathan finding him, growing up, moving into Metropolis to his first rescue, a different into the classic space intro from Christopher Reeve movies, John Williams music in the background with slap, all in short clips. So the reason why I selected this question is because all while we know this isn't an origin movie, that doesn't technically discount an example like this, right? So what I mean is there could be a montage. Think Superman and Lois. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Superman and Lois is set quite far into his Superman career. He has kids who are 15 or 16, but in season 1, they very quickly did a nice little montage of clips with, I believe, Tyler Hoechlin's Clark narrating it. And you saw, him arrive to Earth very, very quickly. It's like 15 seconds, barely that, before you see them in Smallville and Jonathan Kent has a heart attack, to then, Clark having an interview with Perry White at the Daily Planet. It was done all very quickly. Nice little kind of decorating and showing the situation of Clark's earlier life, right? So you could argue that wouldn't make this movie an origin story if they did a similar thing. Or an example could be, if you guys remember Blue Beetle's movie intro, that was pretty cool with how they showed how the Scarab got to Earth while showing the credits. I think that would be pretty awesome. Now, I'm not saying you should go head over heels and show every little bit. I don't know if we need to see the pod again, but maybe like a narration from Corrin Sweat in a similar vein to Superman and Lois, showing certain moments, and then like you kind of fade into him like rushing into work and doing up his top button in the elevator and cue the beginning of the movie. Do you know what I mean? And you don't get any previous flashbacks or montagey moments before that to his earlier life. That was just a nice little opening credit thing, and he's now first seen Clark walking in the Daily Planet and Perry shouting at him. Something like that, right? Bang. Rest of the movie, that is it. But we got a little kind of exposition-y moment of previous DCU Clark life before that for like a couple of minutes at most. I wouldn't be against that. I think it's maybe unlikely, but there is maybe something they can do there. Maybe. How would you guys feel about that? Like, I strictly, very strictly cite the Superman and Lois intro that, again, you're seeing on screen right now. It's not too invasive. It doesn't make the whole show about Clark's origin, or in this case, the whole movie. It's just something cool to see. There's the other way of looking at it, and Gunn just doesn't want to call back to anything origin in terms of actually showing earlier scenes, even if in a montage Blue Beetle kind of intro way or Superman and Lois way, other than if you see the pod on the Kent farm and it's like, oh, that's the pod Clark arrived in, but this is a present day scene. That could be the only stuff you're gonna get. So I really don't know. I would be okay with both, but I wouldn't rule it out. I just wouldn't. Not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't rule it out. But as usual, guys, I had a ton more screenshots that I wanted to get through, but my rambling ass couldn't get through them, so I will, of course, be saving those for another DC discussion series video. But for today, after speaking for so long already, I'm going to leave it there. As for now, let me know everything that we tackled in today's topics. I have my eyes glued to comment sections like this, so I can't wait to see what you have to say. But if you just enjoyed this video and you got to this, like especially if you got to this part, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button on your phone, on your TV, on your PC, your laptop, whatever you're watching on. Maybe consider grabbing that remote and clicking the like button. And of course, if you keep getting my videos recommended, maybe today is the day that you will subscribe. But ladies and gentlemen, I will see you soon. Again, right now, the time you're seeing this, I am on vacation for just a few days. If I've missed anything major, just know that I'll be covering it when I'm back. But again, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye.